guys, what are we going to do today?
I am so excited to use the IOD 2025 summer release. These are some of the projects I had done with the pieces I had gotten. So this is the first project that I'm going to show you that I used the paint inlays on.
So I used the Florography paint inlay from IOD. This is the new 2025 summer release. And I used several of these pages to do some papers that I could put into my frame. And all I did was I used an old handmade paper, and you can see it's deckled on the edges and kind of, it looks like it was burnt or dyed. And I just used a polyacrylic, and I used Minwax. And this is just a clear semi-gloss, but you could use any type you would like. Some sort of a sealer or a medium on your paper. And then I used these paint inlays and designed each page. After they had set and dried, I sprayed them with water and pulled them off very carefully, made sure they were on well. Then I put them into my frame. Now I'm going to show you another project I did, and I'm using one of the new stamps. This is a smaller light pendant right here, and here is a larger one that I had done. So for this project, I used the folk story stamp. Really like this stamp. Let me turn it around here. You can see the beautiful blossoms and flowers and birds that are throughout this. So I have in the link below where I had purchased the template to make the pendant light. And that was the large one I did. After I did the larger one, I wanted to make one that was a little smaller and maybe a little more simple. These were like some of the pages I did. I shrunk them down. I put pieces together so I could do it a little quicker. But after you purchase the template from the person who designed it, you can do whatever you would like with it. So all I did is print all these out onto a cardstock, as many as it says, and then I stamped each piece that I had cut out and lined up my stamp, so I was lining it up in about the same place for each piece in that row. I let them dry, then I scored and glued the pieces together as shown on the template. Once again, the link to the template, since it is actually this large one and the idea is not my design, I thought I would put it in there, but it just gives you an idea of something fun you could do using the stamp in any color on any color cardstock you would like. So here is another project. I used the heraldry, but this is a new mold they had come out with, and I thought this was really, really fun. You can see I made this heart, but I used the floral from inside the flowered frame and added that to the top. Here is the flowered frame that I did with that one, and I thought this crown was very, very fun. I had opened this up to put the head in, but I found out it was easier to cut this bottom piece off. And I made this crown, and using an older angel stamp they had, I used that face and added the crown to it. And I'm just using clay on these, but you could use resin or anything else you would like. There are so many ideas that you could come up with this. These were just a few that I had done up. This is one more idea that I had done up using the folk story stamp. I just really, really love this stamp. What I would do with these is I'd put little battery-operated lights underneath, and you could have them across a table or setting on a shelf or a mantle, and the light shines through all of these crevices here. And this is another one that I'll have a link below, and this is the actual template I am using. So what I did was I took this and put it in my copier and copied it onto a back side of a sheet of paper. This is not as heavy as a heavy cardstock, but not as light as book paper or copy paper. You want something in the middle. I found that if it was too stiff, They just wanted to open up. And if it was too thin, it would just collapse. So you need something in the middle. And you could just use the decorated paper, but I really like the idea of making this with this stamp. So first of all, you copy it off onto the back side of whatever you would like to use. Then I use this stamp right here. So I have my template here. Here is my folk story stamp. And I'm going to ink this up, and I am going to stamp the opposite side of the page. See this one right here? I didn't stamp both sides, and you can see it's just the back side of the paper on this one. And this one also. On this one, I stamped both sides, so the underside, if it's up high, will look like the pattern also. So let's first stamp the other side of this. I've also found that if you have a very, very intricate stamp like this, if you just hold your stamp down, you can also use some sort of a baron. And this is just a flat bottom edge. And it goes over your pieces. As long as you hold on to your stamp, it holds it nicely, and you're getting a little better coverage on this. Let's see how I did. Good enough. Now, I think on these top edges, I am going to try to stamp a little bit of that. And it just really needs to be on the top. And I can see my template there, and just stamp right across here. Because this is going to be the inside, but it's also the top of the back side. So what I'm going to do next is cut this out. And you are just going to cut on these solid lines. And then I'm going to cut all of these slits. And you want to be careful when you get to the end, because you don't want to cut it off. And you're going to make your little bit of a left cut there. Now we're going to put it together. So I'm going to turn this over, and it's a little lighter in some areas, but I think this is going to be just fine. So you can see my little flap is to my left, and the first straight line is to my right. Now, this may seem odd, but I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on this one little edge right here, just to get me started, and I may have to re-glue it. So I'm going to start from my furthest left, where the flap is, and I'm going to start putting each piece under the next. So that one goes under there. So to the right, I'm putting them on top. They're all going on top of each other, but the first one starts. And I put it underneath. Now you want to make sure these stay in the order they are. And I am just going to keep lining these up. And it can feel a little persnickety, and it might want to move. Another time I took it and I glued it first and then did the pieces. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, depending on what feels more comfortable. But you do want to hold these tightly so one does not move out of place. So I'm going to keep lining these up almost at the end. Okay, now I'm going to want to glue this little flap to this little end. So I am going to bring these up a bit and hold them. And if it's really, really hard to do this, to glue it together, what I do is I put my hand around here and I carefully move it together. And I want to glue that flap underneath. And I'm just going to hold that there for a moment. And then what I'm going to do is I have my hand around the top, and I'm going to turn the actual vase. And you'll feel which way it needs to go. I am turning this, on this one I'm turning it counterclockwise, but sometimes either way will work. And you'll see how they all form together just like that. Now, if you're afraid this is going to fall apart, because I mean, sometimes they move a little. Most of the time, I could get this just to stay as it is. But if you would like it a certain height, or maybe a little taller, or maybe a little shorter, depending on what you want, what you can do is add just like a little dollop of glue underneath a few of these pieces. So that one and that one are held, and that one's held. And they give it just a bit more stability. And then you can decide what you would like to do. And depending on the color or the paper or the design you put on here, this could be really cute just on dinner plates as a centerpiece, and you just have your little battery operated candle or light down there, and the light will come through on each one. You could also make a little tag with their name on it hanging down here, and that could be really cute too. But the template for this is also below in the description. So this next piece I had done is I had made this small quilt, and you could use it as a table runner. You could do quite a few of the blocks and actually make it into a bed covering or a larger lap quilt. So this is the stamp I am using for this, and this is called Mercy House Cha-Ching. I think I'm saying that correctly. And all of these beautiful images are in this stamp. Also, in the description below, I will have a link to this pattern that I had done. And here I first show you all the sizes of the blocks, and it tells you all the muslin pieces to cut and how I put them together. All of the A row, the B row, the C row, adding the D row. So it shows you in order how to make this quilt with some photos in here so you can see the stamps that I used. So after I cut out all my pieces, I stamped all my pieces and I heat set them with a hot iron. And then I sewed all of the blocks together. Now you could design this and add different parts of the stamps or change it up to whatever you would like. This just happened to fit with the sizes I used. And then I did this fun edging with the one stamp, and I show you how I made this scallop on the ends. But you could even do it all the way around, or just do the scallop and add it to something else that you would like. And then when I was completely done, I just did a lot of hand quilting on here, but that's really optional depending on what you would like to do. But it gives you an idea how I use this to make this fun little quilt. I hope you give this a try, and whatever you do, have fun.
Patterns and templates that are added in there.